Hi, everyone. It's Matt from The Pen Habit. Glad to have you back again for another pen review. And today we're going to be talking about some pens from a different part of the world that I have talked about before. We're going to be headed over to China. So these are the pens in question. I've got 3 of them in my collection. Up until last week at Christmas, I had 5 of them, but I gave 2 of them away as Christmas gifts. Um, these are the Jinhao, Jinhao X450s. I purchased all of these pens on eBay, and what makes these pens so startling, and if you're around the fountain pen community a lot, you probably know this already, is the price. These pens, I got these pens for either $6 or $7 a piece, shipping included from China to the United States. I purchased from reputable eBay sellers. They all showed up within a week to 2 weeks. No problems with them at all. And I have been thrilled with these pens. A few weeks back, I had a video about the Pilot Metropolitan. And it's not a pen that I adore. It's a good pen, it's fine, but it's not something that I'm just gaga over. These, on the other hand, cost less money and I like a whole lot more. Um, so a couple things about these pens. They're standard cigar-shaped pens, very nice, come in a whole variety of colors. You can find them on eBay. And just recently, the Goulet Pen Company has started carrying them as well, which I think is great. I love to see more U.S. companies carrying these inexpensive Chinese pens. I believe there's a company called hisnibs.com. I think that's what it is that also carries them, or I sell pens. I don't remember off the top of my head, but you're starting to see these more and more in the United States. And this is a fantastic starter pen for someone. I've been using fountain pens for about a year now, and I'll talk about why, but this is actually one of my all-time favorite pens. It's probably in the top 5 for me. Um, the other nice thing about these pens is that they use a standard number 6 size nib. They come with a standard number 6 size nib. So if you don't love the nib it comes with, you can find nibs from anywhere. These standard number 6 sizes. Goulet Pen Company carries them. You can buy them directly from Edison. You can even buy gold flex nibs from Edison if you wanted to put a flex nib on this pen. Now, I've not done that. I don't know how well it works. Monteverde sells number 6 nibs they sell them through the Goulet Pen Company. So there are lots of places that you can find replacement nibs. And for most of my Jinhao pens, I've taken that number 6 nib out, the Jinhao nib that came with, which is actually still a pretty good nib in its own right. And in 2 of the 3, I've replaced them with Goulet Pen Company number 6 nibs, which are made by the German company Jovo. And I adore the pen with the Goulet nib in it. It is the perfect pen for the way I write and what I do. And at $6 a pop plus 13, $15 for a nib, $20. And in my mind, you're getting a much better value and a much higher quality pen than what you get with the Pilot Metropolitan. So that's one of the reasons why I don't adore the Pilot Metropolitan. I just feel like you get more for your money with these Jinhao pens. So let's kind of do a walkthrough. This is the matte black finish. I also have a blue finish with this nice kind of spiral design on it, and a red mottled finish, which I like a lot. It's got a lot of depth that it's probably hard to see on the video or in the photos. I also had 2 other pens in mottled finishes, one in a green mottled finish. And in that pen, the green was really, really dark. It was hard to tell it was green unless you had it in a pretty bright light. That's one of the pens I gave away at Christmas time. And the other one was a pen that I gave to my father, which was a gray mottled pen. And I gave him that one. And after I gave it to him, I said, you can exchange it for any other color you want. He decided to stick with the gray. So he liked that quite a bit. The other pen, the green one that I gave away, my cousin-in-law, my cousin's husband, was at my uncle's house at Christmas time, and we were over there visiting. I'd brought my entire pen and ink collection down to Utah with me when I'd gone for the holidays, and was going through showing them all the pens and all the inks, and we were, geeking out over it because they're all my uncle's a fountain pen user as well. And my cousin-in-law saw this whole thing and was just entranced by it, totally engaged with it. He'd never used a fountain pen before, had no idea about all the inks and the stuff that went along with it. And I could tell I could tell. So without his knowing, I went home. This happened on Christmas Eve. I went home. I made up a few sample bottles of different inks that he had expressed some interest in, and gave him the green Jinhao pen. I tuned the nib a little bit, smoothed it out, gave it over to him. He wrote 30 pages on Christmas Day, sitting at the table with a pad of rhodia paper and writing with his new fountain pen. So I'm pretty sure I have become a pusher, a fountain pen pusher, an enabler. It's a great feeling, isn't it? Anyone who uses fountain pens, you probably try to do this as much as you can. This is the first one I've ever had really dive into it as much as my cousin-in-law did. And I'm sure his wife, my cousin, does not thank me for it. So anyway, let's go and do a little bit of investigation on the pen itself. So start off with the stats. It is uncapped. We're looking at 124 millimeters. And capped, we are looking at 141, it looks like. Posted, the pen comes in at about 163, it looks like. And this pen does post. It actually posts not terribly securely, but it will post and it will stay on. Let me turn the pen around here. One of the things that surprised me about this pen was how balanced it is. I mean, you can see I'm not holding on to it. With the cap posted, it fits just wonderfully in the hand. Now, it does tend to get a little heavy for me, and I do like a heftier pen, but with the cap posted, it does start to get just a touch unwieldy for me, but it's not bad. In terms of weight, with the cap on, just switch over to grams here. We're looking at 44 grams, and that is also with the converter and ink in the pen. And without the cap, you're looking at 30 grams. So it's a pretty substantial pen. If you're someone who likes a light pen, this probably isn't going to be the best fit for you, but try it out. It's $6. Really, it's not bad. So we can go look at the design now a little bit here. This is the matte black version, gold plated. They do come in silver plating, but they're hard. The silver plated ones are harder to find on eBay. I did find one on Goulet Pen Company, I believe. So the standard cigar shape, got the rounded top, metal body, got a gold clip, and all of the gold clips are the same. You can kind of see the profile here and the 3 dots on the top of the clip. Center band says Jinhao, and on the back side it says X450, and then you've got another gold colored band here before the bottom. Pop top cap, and this is the one with the Goulet nib in it. Let me actually pull out the one that has the standard Jinhao stock nib in it, the blue one here. Double colored nib, bicolor nib, says Jinhao 18 KGP, which I assume stands for 18 karat gold plated. It's not a gold nib, but steel nib with gold plating. Nice engravings on it. Very nice looking nib. They do not mark the sizes of the nib. So I assume most of these are medium because that's what I try to order when I order from eBay, but there's really no way of knowing. And what I find interesting about this pen is the section, and don't know if you can see it really well here. But the section has these 3 kind of flattened areas that, depending on how you hold your pen, are really the perfect fit. So the pen sits very nicely on my finger, right there, on my middle finger, and then I do a pincher grip, which is how I always write. It wouldn't work as well if you do an over-the-top grip, I don't think. But a pincher grip fits very nicely on this pen and fits right on the finger holds here. So, and you can see it sits quite nicely on my hand. I don't need it posted for my hand. And then the feed is just kind of a standard plastic feed that you can kind of see here. I'll try to get more light on it. Let's see if we can get a better picture. Okay, so this is a converter cartridge pen, or cartridge converter pen. I always say those backward for some reason. And the ones that I've ordered have come with a converter in them. The converter that comes in them is a clear plastic, and it feels pretty cheap. It feels pretty insubstantial. Now, that being said, I've never had one leak. I've never had one break, but it feels a little flimsy. And you can see here the other thing. Let me open up the reservoir. So you've got the ink from here to here. That's the amount of space of ink that you can get in there. Now, this is a regular Schmidt, I believe, standard international converter. So this is a little bit shorter. This is a little bit longer, and you'll notice here is the ink reservoir space on this pen, where here is the ink reservoir space in this pen. So the longer converters will hold a little bit more ink, and they fit inside the pen. I've not had an international standard converter not fit in the pen, so I'm not entirely sure why they use these smaller ones. It's probably just an incremental cost savings. But if you use fountain pens, chances are you've got a blue bazillion of these sitting around, and you can swap them out no problem, or use them. If the ink amount isn't that big a deal for you, go ahead and use it. Should be just fine. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do a writing sample, or kind of two writing samples. I'm going to do one with the stock Jinhao nib, and then I'll do one with the pen on which I've swapped out a Goulet nib, so you can kind of see the difference, and I can talk about the difference as we go. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start with the stock Jinhao nib. This is the, oh, didn't get the ink started before I started the video. Probably should have done that. Get the ink flow going. What I'm just doing is I've got a little former t-shirt. I'm just tapping lightly on the t-shirt to kind of get the ink flow started. I didn't fill this up by dipping it. I just dipped the converter into the inkwell, put it on, primed the pump a little bit, and wanted to get it started. So that's what I'm doing there. So this is the Jinhao X450. We're using a steel nib, and I believe it is a medium, although, like I mentioned earlier, there's no real way to tell. The ink in both pens is going to be J. Urban, and we are looking at BLUE, Blue Provence. Blue Provence ink, and this is the first time I've ever used this ink, so I have nothing to compare it to. It's a nice color. I like the color a lot. I'm generally not a huge fan of J. Urban inks because they tend to be a little unsaturated and run a little on the dry side. I'll talk about that in just a little bit. And as always, the paper is a Rhodia dot pad, ADGSM. Okay, so this is with the stock nib here, and now, one of the things that strikes me most about this pen, almost the instant I start writing with it, is this pen is a wet, juicy pen. This pen puts down a lot of ink with the stock nib in place. I mean, a lot of ink. In terms of line variation, you can actually coax a fair bit of line variation out of this nib, although that is, as I've mentioned before, not what it is intended to do. Let me zoom in just a touch here. But you can get a fair bit of line variation out of the nib. That's actually pretty spectacular line variation for such a cheap steel nib. In terms of smoothness, it's not as entirely smooth as I would like it right out of the gate. This is a one where I would probably want to spend a little bit of time doing some writing to figure out where the scratchy points are. And it looks like I'm having some issue on this direction right here. It's kind of getting a little bit of drag if I go to the right. So I'd probably at that point want to do some nib alignment and some smoothing, and we'd get the pen down. And as I mentioned, this is a very wet pen. I mean, that is a wet pen. In fact, this pen is probably too wet for my use. I would probably try to cut the ink flow back a little bit, because this is just, unless I'm on Clairefontaine or Rhodia or Tomo River paper. I just don't know that I would be able to keep the paper from bleeding and feathering like crazy. So, in this particular case, it's probably just a little too wet for me. Now, the one thing that you're going to find with these inexpensive pens, and I think this is a really good indication. This is actually the first time I've inked this particular X450 up, is that you're going to find some variation. You can't expect to get the exact same thing every time. They're not going to put the same quality control into their pens that they would if they were charging $100 or $150. They are mass-produced pens, but as I've mentioned, they're adjustable. So now I'm going to go ahead and switch over to one with a Goulet nib on it, and this is the black matte finish. So this is a Goulet steel nib, and this one is in medium, and we're using the same ink, J. Herbin Blue Pervenche. Let's try that again. Pervanche. And you'll notice this pen is much drier, but not annoyingly so. This pen would probably be what I would consider a moderate wetness, or slightly on the dry side of moderate. So for instance, I can show you just kind of by comparison here. You'll see we don't get anywhere near the same amount of spread that we do from the other pen. In fact, you'll notice this up here still very wet. So like I said, the stock nib on the one that I just inked up is probably too wet for day-to-day use. It's probably too wet for almost any use for me. Now, I know people who love themselves some uber juicy pens. So, just be aware that you either may need to swap out the nib or make some adjustments to it. That's a small price to pay for a $6 pen, in my opinion. The Goulet nibs do not offer anywhere near as much line variation, which is to be expected. But they work really well. And I will say that this nib is so much smoother. Now, I have not made any adjustments to this nib yet. I just popped it on and started writing. So if you get a nib that you're not thrilled with, a $13, $15 Goulet nib, or if you've got another number 6 nib sitting somewhere, an Edison nib or a Monteverde nib, or you can even go to Meister Nibs and order I think they have Bach or a couple of other nib manufacturers where you can just buy the nibs directly. Swap out the nibs, see what you think. And in the case of this particular pen, I love it with the Goulet nib. This is a pen that I can and have carry with me almost on a daily basis. Okay, well, I think that is going to pretty much sorry, forgot. Got to do the upside down writing. There's the Goulet nib, very fine line, still pretty smooth. And here's the upside down writing on the other nib. Very smooth, actually. Smoother upside down than it is right side up. And with so much ink being laid down, it's a wider line, it looks like. So that's going to be the Jinhao X450. $6, $7 pen on eBay. You can get them from the Goulet Pen Company for $9 if you want to order from within the United States. Great pen. Love the pen. Love the heft. Love the shape. They're classy looking. Ton of colors. Standard nib sizes. Use a standard international cartridge. You really can't go wrong with this pen, in my opinion. So that's going to do it for this video. We'll have more videos coming up soon. And as always, the litany of social networking, Twitter, Facebook, Google+, Pinterest. You can email me, penhabit@gmail.com, or you can head over to penhabit.com. Check out our reviews there. Also note, I got a YouTube comment on my last video asking if I could do close-ups of the feeds and things like that. In case you didn't know, I also include a photo gallery of still photos that I don't put in the video itself on penhabit.com. So if you're interested in that, I'll start putting links to the actual blog post pages in the YouTube video so you can go and see the photo galleries if you want to as well. So that's going to do it. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you here next time on The Pen Habit. Bye.